It has never been easier to paraphrase text. Paraphrasing is taking someone's ideas or sentences and reworking them, maintaining the original meaning, but stating it in your own words. And we can do that with AI tools these days, but we can't just use AI tools. That is not good enough. You'll see what I mean throughout this video. Stay tuned. The first AI tool that we can use is Jenny AI. So here is a little bit of a text that I've been generating, and all I have to do to generate the paraphrasing is to highlight the text and then go to AI commands either here or down at the bottom, and I click here and you can see I've got paraphrase. You can go academically, casually, persuasively. So I'm going to go academically, and then you see Jenny AI is writing, and then it comes up with this, just a really simple sort of like paraphrase that you can accept or try again. So I'm going to replace section. There we go. We've also got something like Yomu. Yomu is very similar in the way it works. You highlight the text that you want to talk about. You go to use AI, and then we've got paraphrase here. We've got lots and lots of different types of options, which we'll talk about in a minute. Some of them are more useful than others, but ultimately here we've got paraphrase. We can click there and it says Yomu is writing, and we'll end up with, you know, keep selection, next suggestion, back to previous, all of that sort of stuff. So I'm going to keep that selection. I'll put a full stop in there. And then we've also got another AI paraphrasing tool. This is from SciSpace. SciSpace is a scholarly Scholarly is a paraphrasing tool, but it doesn't work like the others. You put in what you want to paraphrase, and you'll do that sort of like paragraph by paragraph or sentence by sentence if you are really keen. And you can put it in here, and then you put rephrase. You can choose the length variation, and then you can choose the language as well. You can even change the language, which is pretty cool if you ask me. But that is not the end of the story, because if you're doing this, you're not really writing it in your own words, are you? You're just copying and pasting what has come out from AI, and we all know we shouldn't do that, even though sometimes we're lazy and we convince ourselves that it's absolutely fine. It is not. So this is what you need to do, and this is how I would do it. Once you've got the text you want to paraphrase, you have to read it completely, and what I like to do is read it a couple of times, and here is how you sort of make sure you synthesize it into your own words, is you explain it to someone else. If you don't have someone else around, you can create a little something, I don't know, like a little sock puppet or something. Here we are, here's a microphone cover. You can explain it to your microphone cover. You can explain it to a pet. You can explain it to a friend. You can just talk it out loud. But that was one of the biggest tips that I got from my science writing career, is that just write it in your own words. Sounds easy when you say it to someone, but the act of doing it is very hard if you just sat there looking at a piece of paper or a blank screen. You're like, how do I rewrite this? Essentially, it's explaining it to someone else. So if you're explaining something, you're not memorizing the text you've just read. You're actually synthesizing it into your own words. And then you can either capture it with voice to text, or you can just, record yourself and type it out a little bit later. That is how you paraphrase properly. And it's a little bit of a shortcut rather than just sat there typing, because you end up plagiarizing if the text is in front of you anyway. If you want to get some ideas of how to explain something, then what I would do is use some of these tools on these AI writers to think about other ways you can say something. So if we take this bottom bit here, let's take this bit, and we use the AI commands in Jenny, we can have a look to see simplify, make longer. So if you want to look at how you could explain it to your little mascot you've created yourself, you can actually have a look at these. Okay, simplify this, simplify it academically, and just sort of like read a few things, and then what will happen is those will seep into your sort of like synthesis part of your brain, and when you're explaining it to someone, these things will influence how you say it. You can also do it with Yomu as well, so take yourself a selection, use AI, and then shorten, expand, academize, and summarize. So you can use these to inform your explanation, but it's important you don't just copy and paste. You have to go through that synthesis step in your own meat brain, because otherwise it's just copying. Once you've got the text that you've generated or that you've sort of like created yourself, you need to go through it and you need to read it and you need to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, would I actually explain it this way? So for example, take this. The scale of this decline is staggering. I would never use the word staggering, so I would change that word. And you need to go through all of your text and start changing the words for words you would actually use. Now, sometimes we can convince ourselves, we can read this and be like, oh, that sounds real fancy. I would definitely talk like that, but you don't. You don't. So just change it and don't be sort of like trying to trick yourself into thinking you're cleverer than you are. You just have to go through and say, would I use staggering? No, the scale of this decline is not staggering for me. I don't know what I would put, but it certainly isn't that. The downward trend can be attributed to a complex interplay of factors. So I probably wouldn't say complex interplay of factors. I changed that. And then you just go through, once again, you can talk it out loud and you can actually see how you would say something and change the words. And you need to keep the meaning, but you can change the words and also the sentence structure. But we're not done there. Here's the last step that I think you should do if you want to get away from paraphrasing wrong. Paraphrasing incorrectly. The last thing I always did before submitting something was making sure that the structure of the text was appropriate for what I was trying to say. After a number of revisits to the same paragraph, you can kind of start seeing if a certain sentence should go above another, or if a whole idea should be moved 2 paragraphs up. All of that sort of stuff relating to the structure of the overall text will help you paraphrase as well, because sometimes our brains don't work linearly. They need a couple of ideas sort of seeded throughout so it makes more sense as you're reading it. So in the last pass, you need to have a read of everything you've written and then just start thinking about the structure. Could this go above? Does it make sense for a certain paragraph to go before another one? Quite often it's only very small changes. You're not doing a massive copy edit, but it's about making sure that the structure has an opportunity to be rearranged so it makes more sense for the way that you have just described it. Sometimes we do put the cart before the horse, so to speak. So we do try to introduce an idea that would better go after something else. And that was one of my big issues with my supervisor. My PhD supervisor would always be like, cart before horse in the margins, and I would be like, oh, I bloody did it again, didn't I? So look at the structure, make sure you get someone else to read over it as well, just so it makes sense for a general reader, not just you. And that's it. That's how you do it. But there's one more step. We're not finished yet. The last thing you need to do is cite your sources. Make sure that you actually cite what you're talking about. If it's someone else's idea, someone else's results, someone else's experiment, you need to cite them. You can't get away with it these days. There's far too many tools to get you into trouble. So make sure you cite all of your sources. On different AI tools, it's pretty easy. You've got this button, add citation, so you can go in and you can add a citation, and you can also in Jenny now add your own documents. You go up to library and it's all there. The second thing you can do is on Yomu, go to Cite as well, or you can just put in your own citations like a normal person, and that way, you know, you've read what you're paraphrasing and you put the citation directly after it, but you're not actually just copy and pasting what they've said. You've been through a number of steps to make sure that you're not going to get detected for plagiarism. But now we're going to go here and check for ourselves. The last thing you need to do is make sure that you do actually check what you're writing. Now, the one thing that I like to do is make sure that the tool I'm using is similar to the one that my university or my school is using. So I would go to something like PaperPal. If you want to upgrade to Prime, you can get 7,000 words of text, and this is what I'm more interested in, is the fact that it's using Turnitin. There's a free one available from Scribr, and you can see it's a free plagiarism detection in partnership with Turnitin. Why is that important? Because Turnitin, for some reason, has managed to get the market share in universities and schools. So you want to be making sure that you're comparing apples with apples. And is that, yeah, that makes sense. Comparing apples with apples and making sure that when you put it into your school system, it's using the same algorithms to check for plagiarism. So all you have to do is upload your document, put it in there. Bob's your uncle. You get a plagiarism score. If you're finding it's plagiarized, go back and start changing it, start explaining it out loud, write it down. Those are the things that are really going to make a difference. And you know, using AI tools and plagiarism tools, if you think that you're doing something a bit sneaky, you probably are. So backtrack and just use your own meat brain. Yeah, that's how you get around plagiarism. If you like this video, go check out this one where I talk about bypassing AI detection using AI tools. You'll love it. Go check it out.